Every week.
I can't. Are we live?
Yeah.
YouTube loading.
What?
YouTube's good. Facebook's good.
Okay.
Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. We're back again this week for another live session, and we're already off the rails.
We're already,
Already a little goofy, yes.
we started early this week.
Yeah. And we have Julia joining us this week too.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Julia. Be sure to comment below
Julia
where you're
and
watching
her
from.
psychedelic background.
I could turn it around. I have a different one. I have two
Julia's
sides.
psychedelic background.
Ah,
It's better than my messy backdrop of my piles of papers.
I'll have a heart attack if you show me that.
Exactly. That's why I have this nice screen from overstock.com.
Ooh.
So my use of vocabulary has rubbed off on you, Julia, but not my meticulous desk habits.
Exactly. I try. I always send you a picture when I clean my desk. Just for the 2 minutes that it's
Like, what have
tidy.
you done? Cleaned it. Oh.
that's funny.
Oh.
Well, today we're talking about a really interesting conversation that popped up that we got a hold of about someone dealing with their vet. So Julia, do you want to kind of give the backstory?
Yeah,
of it?
I'll give you the backstory. Actually, I'm going to mention her name because she said it's fine to mention my name. Her name's Megan Weir, and we heard about her. She's a client of our friend Rita Hogan's, the canine herbalist. And Rita sent me this email and said, "Wow, what do you think about this?" And so we read this email that Megan got from her vet. And so we were pretty horrified when we read it. We'll get into that. But the backstory is Megan went, I'm not sure she was at the vet's office. I think this is a house call vet. But the vet tech offered her heartworm medication for her dog Mo. And the backstory to Mo is that they moved to Arizona from Oregon 6 years ago, and Mo had never been vaccinated. But when they got to Arizona, the vet, not the same vet here, but the vets pressured her to vaccinate. So she did. And after that, Mo had all kinds of health issues, which she's now working with Rita on. And so Megan's learned a lot about natural health, and Mo's doing great now. You know, he did have 2 knee surgeries, though, and he had fatty lipomas. Megan has really done a lot of research since then, and she's understanding a lot about it. And so when the vet tech said, you want some Heartgard for the year, she said, "No, I don't, thank you. I'm just going to," and the vet tech pressed her. And I think she said she had to repeat herself 3 times. And finally she said, "No, I'm just going to test more often. I'm going to do heartworm tests every 4 months so that, if he does get infected, we'll check it earlier." And the vet tech kind of, didn't really want to back down and complained to the vet. And so Megan then got this incredible diatribe in an email from the vet, who fired her as a client. So that's the backstory. And, I should add that Megan lives in Arizona. It's not exactly a hotbed of mosquitoes and heartworm. And I checked the American Heartworm Society incidence maps, and about a third of Arizona has less than 1 case per clinic.
Wow.
Most of the state is in the 1 to 5 cases per clinic category. And then there's a tiny, tiny little darker area that has 6 to 25 cases per clinic. And that might sound like a lot, but it really isn't, because, sorry, you're waving your finger at me.
No, no. Sorry.
No, it might sound like a lot, but if you
have to consider false positives.
Yep.
So false positives come back at about 0.5%. So
Yep.
when you consider the tens of thousands of dogs that are getting tested annually in Arizona, the amount of positive cases probably is about what the false positives would be anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And, it doesn't compare with places like, southeastern states, where they have more than 100 cases per clinic reported. And Megan says all the vets in Arizona are talking about how heartworm's really getting bad and blah, 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 blah. And if you look at the maps, the American Heartworm Society kindly provides the maps from earlier years, and you can just go through. It looks identical. It really hasn't changed. So it's just nonsense, and it's a way to try to sell more stuff and put fear into people, and which is what this vet did.
And it sounds like a paycheck.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not. I'm actually going to stick up. I'm going to stick up for the vet a little bit because that's what they're taught. They're
Right.
taught reactionary medicine, and they're taught because the American Heartworm Society is owned by the people who make heartworm meds. So there's no conflict of interest there. So of course the messaging is really, really strong. So I think vets fear heartworm for two reasons. First of all, they're taught to fear it.
Right.
And I don't condone that, because how about a little bit of independent thinking? Because we pay good money for veterinary care, and we pay them as professionals. We even call these people doctors. So it behooves them to actually research this and not just rely on what the American Heartworm Society tells them. But then the second part of it is veterinarians believe that, and let's face it, there are way more dangerous things you can do for your dog than give them heartworm meds. Would you agree, Julia?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not saying 100% safe,
and conventional heartworm treatment is way more dangerous than heartworm meds.
that's the point I want to make. So conventional medicine, the conventional veterinarians, they'll say, look, take the heartworm med, because if your dog happens to get heartworm, then we have to treat it with this terrible amiticide, and it's really dangerous for your dog, because as the heartworms die off, they can clog up his heart. You have to keep him confined in a crate. But the one thing they don't realize is that, herbalists and homeopaths have been treating heartworm for decades without the crate restriction to the same degree, without that rapid die-off that the drugs cause, and without using toxic drugs. So they're kind of missing two pieces of the puzzle there.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah. And they're just, I've said this before, it's just, I hate that some vets don't do their research, and they just end up prostituting themselves for the pharmaceutical companies. It's exactly what it is. And we pay them for this.
Yeah. We pay them a lot for it.
Yeah, we do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the vet fired her, huh?
The vet fired her, but not before writing her this really long email, which was, I said a diatribe, and it really was. She harangued her. She basically told her that she's a negligent dog owner, and so she may have even used that word at some point. And she told her how incredibly safe the drugs are. And then she went on at great length about how horrible the treatment is, which we know. And Megan knows too. Megan has had a dog with heartworm that went through conventional treatment. And she said, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to use natural treatment if I ever have a dog get heartworm again. And
listen to this.
It's a wild letter.
Listen to this, guys. I have the letter right in front of me. Although natural therapies have their place in pet health, and I use and recommend them all the time, there's a line between being natural and being ignorantly neglectful by refusing to incorporate traditional therapies to keep a pet healthy and safe in instances where natural therapies fall short. So where's the proof that natural therapies fall short?
Right, there's no proof. And this, by the way, is a vet who on her website says, I'm quoting verbatim, she uses a number of natural remedies to go along with your pet's traditional treatments. She's not holistic. She just says that to try to make it look like she might be.
Those are the worst kind of vets, in my opinion. Hey guys, if you have any bad vet stories, where you've had friction with your vet, especially if you've come out on top and convinced your vet otherwise, let us know, because I think the point of this isn't to bash vets so much as to learn how we have these conversations with our veterinarians. But what was I talking about?
the kind of vets who pretend they're holistic but aren't.
Oh yeah, I would take a conventional vet through and through any day. Somebody who says, I'm conventional, like it or leave.
Yep.
over somebody who says, "Oh yeah, no, I'm integrative. I hate that word. I'm integrative," which means that they're not. They're just trying to cash in on the natural health, and they just don't. In order for natural health to work and work well, you just have to have 100% buy-in, right?
Mhm.
You can't feed your dog Old Roy and vaccinate them annually and then expect that natural therapies are going to work or that you can actually prevent heartworm. There's an element of building up the immune system that's involved in natural health that's completely ignore. Completely ignore. So I don't have a strong affinity for integrative vets. Let's say it like that.
Yeah.
Ignorantly neglectful. That's absolutely crazy. And then of course, there's the heartworm disease is a very serious, often fatal disease. Well, it is when veterinarians treat it. It's like Parvo, right? They want us to give our puppies the Parvo vaccine because a lot of puppies. It's not, a lot of puppies actually don't die from Parvo. The mortality rate is fairly high, but they say it's really, really expensive to treat for Parvo and your puppy might not make it. So why not just vaccinate? It's so much cheaper and so much easier. What they don't know is that something like Paxin just boom, turns puppies around. I had a puppy with Parvo. Paxin fixed him in 11 hours. 11 hours. He went from death's door to fully mobile and moving and solid poops and eating again, right? So they're not aware or they don't care. They don't care to look at using natural treatments for these things. And it just messes the waters. Not to mention that unvaccinated puppies have an incredibly high survival rate for Parvo. It's the vaccinated puppies that are the ones that succumb to it.
What I found interesting in the letter, well, many things are interesting, but this vet kind of takes the agency away from the dog owner itself. Like she says, you do not get to pick and choose what I do for your dog.
Wow.
That's just that's a wild sentence. It's just
Well, which by the way is right after she says, as a licensed doctor for pets, I know what is best for them medically and I give the recommendations that are appropriate. You can follow them or not follow them. That is up to you. But obviously she doesn't mean that because she goes on to say, you do not get to pick and choose what I do for your dog.
Wow.
And that there's a legal issue there. I mean, there's an ethical issue too, but there's also a legal issue. Because, you know, we hear about informed consent a lot in human medicine. We don't hear about it so much in veterinary medicine, although when I was researching it, I did find that in the UK, they're very hot on informed consent for veterinary medicine. But here they're not. And the AVMA has a little blurb about it saying, yeah, your vet's got to tell you about the risks and benefits and how much it'll cost and the prognosis, and you are supposed to sign off on that. But actually, there's more than that, because I found an article in the American Journal of American Veterinary Medicine about veterinary medicine and the law. And it said, this is pretty shocking, actually, it said, while there is no provision in the law prohibiting assault against animals, it does say that you have nearly absolute control over your own property, and animals are, for most legal purposes, considered property. And it says, thus, animal owners enjoy certain property rights, and the power to consent or deny consent to a medical procedure is one of those rights. So, you know, this legally, this woman doesn't have a leg to stand on when she not only is trying to force this woman to do a treatment that she doesn't want to do, she didn't even give her a chance to change her mind. In the same email, she sent her all this criticism and outrageous accusations about being a bad dog owner. And then she fired her at the bottom of the email. So she didn't even give her a chance to say, oh, well, you know, I might consider it, or maybe we can have a conversation. She just, it was just, she was venting, I think.
Wow. What I do not do, she says, is let a layperson tell me, in capital letters, what's best for their pet. Wow.
like completely taking away all agency from from Megan.
Yeah. Not to mention that the average pet owner knows way more about nutrition than the average veterinarian. The average pet owner these days knows way more about vaccination than most veterinarians do. Or at least, well, no, vets know a lot about vaccination. What they don't understand is immunology. And we pet owners, we informed pet owners probably know a lot more about immunology than vets do. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Ronald Schultz, who is like the preeminent researcher when it comes to veterinary immunology, he actually said that. He said it's embarrassing.
Yeah. I talked to, and they don't recognize reactions because they don't understand the links between chronic disease and vaccination. And in fact, a friend of mine was recently talking to her sister-in-law, who's a vet, who's been I think she just retired and she's been practicing for 35 years or something. And she said they got into a discussion about vaccination, and she asked her. She said, "Well, have you never had any vaccine reactions in your clinic?" Not a single one. Never. And I said, "Did you ask her
Physically in the clinic?"
yeah. Did you ask her if she had any animals with maybe joint disease or skin disease or digestive diseases, autoimmune disease?" Exactly. I mean, it's, the blinders are on tight.
Yeah, they really are. And I'm glad you mentioned that about pets being property, because I think that was last week. We talked about that. How, and again, this should never give you the right to mistreat an animal. But you probably notice that dogs naturally, we say dog owners. We don't say pet parents. We don't say pet guardians. We buy dogs. We don't adopt dogs, because I think it's really, really important that we do retain that perspective that my dog is my property and I get to choose. Yep. I get to choose how that dog is treated. If I'm mistreating that dog, then you let me know. But other than that, it's my dog, it's my choice.
It's a really important legal distinction.
Yeah.
Very.
I say good on Megan for taking a stance, though. And I think a lot of people, when their vet starts to talk to them like this, you just kind of go, "Oh, okay, you know best, you're the doctor," and just don't know how to say no.
Yeah. You just, because then you get in your car and you're like, right? and then you think about everything that you could have said.
Yeah.
If you have enough of these experiences, and then you just kind of you develop your skills.
And the worst, the easiest thing you can do is, if you can't think of an argument at the time, and you just say, "I'd like to go away and think about it. I'll let you know." I mean, that's your backup plan.
Yes.
I'm not going to make a decision today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Dana said last week, nobody ever made a good decision because of fear.
Right. And that's that was the overwhelming message in this email was fear and guilt, right? You should feel guilty because you don't love your dog enough to protect him from heartworm.
I have enjoyed, I have enjoyed Mo, Tater, and Tot. That's hilarious. Tater and Tot. I've enjoyed Mo, Tater, and Tot. Please consider this a cancellation of your upcoming appointment. I wonder if she gave it within 24 hours.
No, she did. Well, Megan said she read that it was probably sent the night before, but late, because she didn't read it till the morning of the appointment.
Yes. I would charge her for it.
Yeah, what's her cancellation fee?
Exactly. Well, I would write her back and say, "Okay, my cancellation policy is."
Well, I actually thought that Megan might want to consider reporting her to the Arizona Vet Board. Because they do have and I had a look. I dug around their website, and they do require that a vet shall show respect for their colleagues, the owner of an animal to whom veterinary services are being provided, through courteous verbal or written interchange and considerate treatment, blah blah blah. So I don't really think Megan got that.
No, I wouldn't call it ignorantly neglectful, courteous or respectful.
And a 3-page letter.
Yeah. Now, you know what? For the most part, I'd like to point out, this is most vets will work with you.
Yeah.
This is the extreme, man. Most vets, you know what? They just kind of, they go, and then they just do what you want, right? Or they roll their eyes and they go, yeah, sure, whatever, man.
Yeah.
But they will work with you, even if they don't necessarily believe it for themselves.
Some actually encourage you to have those kind of discussions. And in fact, we had that article that was just submitted for the magazine from Karen Rabin, who actually encouraged doing the research and working with your vet, becoming part of the decision-making team.
Yeah.
And you'll have a better relationship because of it. And that good vets are reasonable about that. And they want that relationship.
Yeah. Do you know how we're fooled by marketing and how we go towards the status quo all the time? We're human beings. We're susceptible to just, not swim upstream. And your vet's a person too. So your vet is also a victim of really expensive and creative marketing. And a lot of companies really view your vet as the puppet master. So you really, really have to be an active partner in your dog's veterinary care, because your vet is trying to do the right thing. I believe in most cases, they're just not given all the tools to do that. And that's where you come in, is to show your vet maybe another way.
Yep. Yeah. And sometimes you have to dig a little bit, because I remember years ago when I was first learning about, actually from very early digital issues of Dogs Naturally, that when I first discovered you, I was, thinking, okay, well, I shouldn't be putting this stuff into my dogs. So I asked a few vets about it. I asked a conventional vet, and I asked a vet at the rehab center who claimed to be sort of more holistically minded. And they all said, oh, no, you should do heartworm medicine because it's the treatment is so horrible. And that's always the reason, but they don't think beyond that. And then also, I live in Chicago. I don't think the heartworm risk is huge around here anyway. I mean, yeah, if you go to the dog parks, it's a bit swampy, but there aren't that many dogs who get heartworm. And I pressed the conventional vet one day, and I said, so how many cases do you see? And she said, well, to be honest, most of the ones we get come up from the south.
Yeah. And you have to keep in mind that there's a difference between a few heartworms and heartworm disease.
Yep. I love that Glenn Dupree quote.
Yeah. I mean, your dog probably is walking around with a couple of worms in them, and they're actually a functional part of his digestive tract. They're supposed to be there. The only time those worm populations will grow out of control, just like yeast will or harmful bacteria, is if your dog's immune system and his gut health aren't up to par. So, if your dog has a heartworm issue, he's got bigger problems.
Got a health issue. Yeah.
He's got a health issue, because that's the immune system. And I have the coolest, I should have had it ready for today. I've got the coolest video of white blood cells attacking a worm. Your IgE antibodies, that's their job, is to go out and attack worms. And parasites. So your dog, Mother Nature knows what she's doing, and she set up your dog with a built-in mechanism for dealing with parasites. So if your dog has a parasite load, whether it's intestinal worms or heartworms or giardia or anything like that, it's not giardia, it's not heartworm, it's not worms, it's an immune problem, and you need to fix that.
And if you doubt that, you've only got to look at some statistics about wild animals. And, wolves and coyotes and foxes, they don't die of heartworm disease.
But they're all testing positive. Vast majority of
They have heartworms, but not disease.
Yeah, in both. Well, in Wisconsin, not many. They tested wolves in Wisconsin, and not many are testing positive. But the red wolf down in Texas, they're all testing positive. But it is not a major source of mortality for them.
And I think, I remember back in the pack, I don't know if you remember this, Dana, we had somebody shared, I believe it was from an animal control Facebook page, and they had taken a heart and cut it open. The dog had passed away, and then it was all these worms, and it provoked a lot of fear in people, and then that provoked a lot of conversation regarding treatment and what I should do and how do I do that. how do I make sure that doesn't happen to my dog
Yeah.
without giving him the harmful
And the vets have those pictures in their exam rooms. Like, oh my God, this is what's going to happen if your dog gets heartworm.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to get I don't want to give my dog, I don't want my dog to get parvo.
Yeah.
So I'm going to inject him with aluminum and other stuff. I don't want my dog to get distemper. So I'm going to inject him with MSG and other stuff. I don't want my dog to get any of these infectious disease, more injections. I don't want my dog to get heartworms. So there's a neurotoxin. I don't want my dog to get fleas and ticks. There's another neurotoxin. I don't want my dog to get worms. There's another neurotoxin. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And nobody has researched giving dogs all of these things all together, testing the interactions and the long-term, ramifications in the field.
Do we have any questions that popped up?
Yep. How often should you be testing? You mentioned that Megan was testing every 4 months, but
yeah, there's a little bit of confusion about that. There is Health Gene has a special DNA test. It is unlike other heartworm tests, but you have to send your dog's blood work up to Canada to get it, and it can detect the microfilaria much than most conventional.
It detects the larvae, I think.
Right, sorry.
Important thing. Yeah.
Much sooner than conventional heartworm tests can. So it's feasible that by leveraging this Health Gene test and testing more often based on where you live, that you can catch the heartworms early enough that you could just use, starts with an I, ivermectin or something like that if you're so inclined. But yeah, the other thing, and I listen, I don't want to get in trouble with the FDA, but there are natural herbal remedies, and I tell people this all the time. Amber Naturals has this product that people are using it to not just prevent heartworm, they're treating heartworm with it, and it's just some herbs, man. It's just some herbs. So people are pulling rescues up from the south, and they're just filthy with heartworms, and they're giving them just these herbs, and the dogs are fine.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
I know. I wish I just had, like, I don't know, $25 million to do, to do a properly controlled test on their product, because that would be phenomenal. But even then, vets wouldn't adopt it because it doesn't have the money behind it. They're just, they're not wired that way.
Right. Yep. Yeah. They've been so trained in all that to instill fear and to be fearful themselves.
Yeah. I usually own about 6 dogs at any given time. I breed them. I, tend to have dogs coming and going. I have not done a heartworm test on my dogs in 25 years. It's a waste of money.
Yeah.
I would rather take that money and invest it in high quality omega-3 fats, high quality foods. It is money, in my opinion, that is way better spent in those avenues than testing for heartworm. Don't get me wrong, if I lived in Florida or Texas, I might actually test them for heartworm, but I still personally would not give them heartworm meds. And there's lots of vets in those areas where their clients don't take heartworm meds. Will Falconer, he has a bunch of clients in Texas. They're not giving their dogs heartworm meds. There's lots.
Yeah. Well, Glenn Dupree was in Louisiana.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about swampland.
Yeah. Swampland, and I imagine a fair share of
no offense to anybody in Louisiana, but it is swampland.
Yeah, but I'm sure they have their fair share of dogs that are like farm dogs that aren't maybe
outside. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We just have one more question.
Okay.
Aren't the heartworm that the dog has dangerous? Like, what happens if they have those little heartworms, even if it's not heartworm disease?
Nothing. The
Nothing?
immune system takes care of them. No, 1 or 2 worms are not dangerous for you. Listen, think how Mother Nature works. Parasites aren't supposed to kill their hosts, right? Do you want to move every 6 months?
God, no. I just moved.
Exactly.
I'm never doing it again.
Parasites don't want to move every 6 months either. They want their host to be warm and cozy and comfy and to live for a whole long time.
Mhm.
It's only because our dogs are freaking walking immune disasters that they get heartworms. That's why we don't have a heartworm issue. We don't have a parvo issue. We don't have a flea and tick or Lyme disease issue. We have a screwed up dog issue. That's what we have.
Yeah. And heartworms do die off at some point too. I mean, they have a life cycle. They don't live forever.
Yeah. So yeah, if your dog's immune system is, not terribly hospitable to them, they might live, but their kids might not, right? It's just the environment is a little bit too stressful for them to reproduce and cause that heartworm disease. I have no doubt that if I ran a fecal on my dogs, they'd have some worms. I'm not seeing those slippery, wormy poos come out of them, but they're so squeamish.
I'm so squeamish.
I know, Logan, you're in the wrong company to be squeamish.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we're constantly talking about poop and vomit and things of that nature.
And it always happens around lunchtime too.
Sorry, it's one way to diet.
Yeah. So anyway, be an active partner in your dog's healthcare. And ultimately, I think this vet did her the biggest favor imaginable.
Yeah, that's
Move
right.
on.
Because now she's going to move on and find a better vet.
Mhm.
And it's a good reminder to continue to do your research and like go to the vet armed with what you're going to talk about and with some talking points and with a goal.
You know what I would love, guys? If you came to the pack, if you guys are all pack members, right? You're part of the pack group, I assume. Maybe not everybody. It's just our free group on Facebook. But what I would love for people to do, because what I see in the pack all the time is, I went to the vet and and now my dog's on antibiotics and now I'm rethinking it, or he got vaccinated and I didn't think he needed it already. I would love it if people went onto the pack and said, I'm going to see my vet tomorrow for these things. How can I be better armed to visit my vet tomorrow?
That would be great.
Right? Yeah, because we have so many articles and things where we can say, here's a test that you should ask for. And he'll probably recommend this. Be prepared. And here are some alternatives that you might want to consider, and make sure you take the day. Just say, okay, thanks for diagnosis. Now I know what we're dealing with. Give me 24 hours to think about it. And then come back and we'll have another conversation.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a movement. It's the walking away movement.
It's not even the walking away. It's the opposite. I think of walking away. It's burrowing right in there. Because we're not going to change veterinary medicine if we just walk away. So don't be afraid to get in there and do battle with your vet, because chances are you're not going to change his mind, but you might for a couple.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, you score a win for the good guys.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a negotiation. I mean, you don't have to get confrontational, right? You can I made a deal with a local conventional vet so that if I, because my homeopath is on the other side of the country, I made a deal with a local vet to, be able to do blood work, or, and in Illinois, there's a law that says you have to have an annual exam. So we do the annual exam, but the deal is she will just do diagnosis for me. She doesn't offer to treat my dog. She says, here's what I would do. And of course it's always antibiotics, but she knows I'm not going to do that. And she's fine with it. She gets it.
But that's great to find a relationship like that.
Yeah, but you got to work at it a little bit.
And you know who I find the best vets are? Drive outside of the cities. New graduates, forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. I'm painting this with a really broad brush. Find the old guys that have
The farm
been doing
vets.
Yeah.
Find the old guys and find the guys who are out in the country. Because they're way more affable than the new graduates are like, yeah, rah, 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 rah. And they want to take control and do everything right because they just haven't had enough experience under their belt.
And that was raw, not raw, that Dana said.
They're more like kibble, 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 kibble.
Find an old vet who's been there, done that, and if they do large animals or they're out in the country, so much better. Your experiences will just be brilliant. Even I don't care if they're. It doesn't matter whether they're holistic, right? Because they'll work with you.
Mhm.
And they've seen everything, so they're not afraid.
Yeah, and large animals, right? Like large animal vets are used to having. They don't make you feel guilty. They go, don't you love your horse? You know, they're more prepared to have financial decisions with you because they're used to working with beasts that are way more expensive to treat and manage. So they're not going to, I think they're not going to lay the guilt trip on you quite as much as a city vet would. Yeah,
I think that's right.
We had a question just about which herbs do you recommend for heartworm prevention?
I don't, because I'm not an expert in that. If my dogs were heartworm positive, I would go to Amber Naturals and I would buy their Heart Clean Heart.
Hey,
Yeah. Oh, they changed the name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Clean Heart.
Perfect.
And if you want to talk to them and try to decipher what herbs are in there, go ahead. We have a post on the blog somewhere too that Dave Acalsa wrote, I think, about using homeopathy to manage heartworm dogs.
Yeah, I don't know if we still have that one out there, but yeah, it was a pretty complex protocol too.
Yeah, it was.
But you can do it, and you can consult a homeopath.
Yes. Yep. Get a homeopath in your corner before your dog gets sick.
Yeah, or a herbalist or some good holistic person.
Yep. Do that now. Not too late. Julia.
Yes, can you hear the barking?
Is that your dogs?
That's Tarka. I think it's
All right.
I think the UPS guy must be coming.
Well, that's probably our cue.
That's so cute. Thanks for joining us, Julia.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Thanks. Oh, wait a minute. Number 6.
Number 6.
Woo! 6 in a row.
6 weeks in
Oh
a row.
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. We're on a roll, Julia.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's keep it up.
And we'll see
Fantastic.
you all next week for week 7.
Yay.
All right.
And let us know in the comments if there's something you want us to talk about so we can put it on our list because we have endless weeks to fill. Videos.
Good point.
We'll cover them all next week just in case we never come back again.
Okay, thanks for joining us, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.